It's going great.
Good.
How's it going with you?
It's going okay. A little bit exhausted. Shit's crazy. It's just absolutely nuts. I mean, this is breakneck stuff. Totally exhausted, totally emotionally drained, but at the same time, pretty good morale.
So how is filming this year? Is it different? Expectations different?
You know, I don't. I'll just be totally honest. I don't know that I went into this season with maybe the highest morale.
Yeah.
And by now, I'm feeling really great about it. So it's one of those things where certain things work themselves out, certain things turned out better than I could have expected.
Wow.
So, a lot of people to thank for that.
I don't say this lightly. I mean, I know we have a fan site for Being Human, but I do have to say that Season 3, I think, is probably one of the most perfect seasons of TV I've ever watched.
Yeah,
I think it's quite good. If I'm being honest about Season 4, I think my assessment so far, having seen, how much have I seen? I've seen a little bit more than half of it.
Okay.
And I think, I'm just being blatantly honest, I think it's not going to be as even as Season 3, but the high notes are much higher.
Ooh. Oh.
Right? It's, they're much higher. Like some of the things that take place and some of the ways that we do it, some of the ways we pulled it off, it's just better than what we've been able to do before, bigger and better. I mean, if this tells you anything, there's a scene that we shot. There was this one block where there were two major days that I was stressing about for about a month leading up to it.
Oh, wow.
Knowing it was coming. And there's one particular scene. It's a fight scene. Many people, including Sam Huntington, have called it it's the best Being Human scene.
Wow.
So, going into this and knowing that we had to shoot this impossible day, knowing that that what the writers wrote was one of the best things I've ever read for this scene. Like, I was like, this whole scene was like, from beginning to end, just like such a wonderful idea.
Wow.
And there's a fight, but there's a lot more going on, in and throughout the fight and after the fight. And what I just was so pleased with is that, everyone took it so seriously, because at first, you read this thing and it's just perfect on the page, it's amazing. Then production reality sets in, the thing gets cut down to nothing, and it's just not working.
Oh.
You're just like, took like the thing that could have been the big crowning highlight of this season, and we've got nothing now. Like in terms of what we can shoot and what we've had to cut out, it's almost not even worth doing.
Wow.
So then going back in and duking it out with certain factors, and talking with the producers, talking with the director, and all of us rolling up our sleeves and being like, how the hell do we make this work? How can we add things back in? How do we bring it to the bare minimum, just the essentials of what's going to make this special? And and then we had some ideas. Oh, well, maybe we can do this and we can do that. And then I had to go off and choreograph the fight, and it was a very nerve-wracking. I've never actually been nervous about showing a fight to a director, but this was like, we already have an impossible day to shoot. Fights always take long. The days always run over. I mean, shit, the final battle with Bishop at the end of season 1, we had 2 hours to shoot it. So it's like,
Whoa.
So I'm like, okay, what? I am now choreographing the most elaborate, biggest fight scene that we've ever done, and it's got to be the biggest, and it's got to be the best. What's the director going to think of this? And thankfully, the director, Paulo Barzman, is so efficient that he figured out how we could shoot it. And he came in on the he's watching my choreography, and he ended up going, he was like, you could see him stressing out, him like stroking his chin, and then eventually he's like, well, that's what it's got to be. It's got to be that. It's got to be, and it was a big thing. Wow. It's got to be what you choreographed. That's it. And then afterward we do this, we do that, and so then we got on the day, and he just burned through the first few scenes of the day so that we could have like 4 or 5 hours to shoot that scene. And it was like, oh my God, what a luxury! Like we never had that before. I mean, like I said, the Bishop fight was an hour and a half or 2 hours to shoot. Henry and me was an hour and a half on top of a roof. I mean, like it's always been this really, frankly, dangerous way of doing fight scenes.
Right,
and this one, it's like, okay, we got like 7 characters in the scene, most of which are fighting.
Ooh.
Let's, and he actually allowed for the time to get it done, and we got it done. And there's special effects and there's all kinds of crazy shit. So I hope it turns out well, but I got the sense that it worked. I got the sense that we got enough to totally make it work.
Wow.
So it's like, generally these important moments, and everyone pulls together to protect them, and I'm very happy about that.
And you did say you choreographed this crazy fight scene?
Yeah.
Have you ever done that before?
Yeah. I mean, generally, I've always worked with Alex, the fight choreographer, the fight guy.
Yeah.
And he helps me. He always helps me with these things. Sometimes, frankly, it's his fight, and I'll just modify it a little bit. In this case, it was so dramatically specific that it required me to really kind of design the whole thing, because there are different tones you have to strike with different moments. Like it's got to start out with a certain character, and then by the end of the, when I say character, a certain value, a certain tone to the fight. And then by the end of the fight, it's going to be a completely different tone. There's a complete shift in the scene that changes the nature of what's actually happening. It required me to actually get in there.
Wow.
So, how exciting.
Are you allowed to tell us which episode that is, or no?
It's later on in the season.
Later on in the season. All right, that's good enough.
It's a climactic moment. It's a climax to something that has been built up throughout the whole season. Or you could even say that it's a climax to something that has been built up for more than one season.
Ooh.
So,
what's this about Crash Tones being human this year?
They're subtly in there. That's all I can say so far.
Okay.
I don't know where it's going to go, but there's at least a song in there.
Are you excited about that, or?
I am excited because it occurred to me that I'd never pushed that. I was like, I always stayed away from that, and it wasn't until I sort of did it in penance to something I cost the production. I cost the production a little bit of money. Well, and it wasn't entirely my fault, but basically there was a moment during a flashback where I thought it would be interesting if Aiden sang a song under some very unusual circumstances. And so, I said, it's got to be the right song. So I started doing research into what songs would have been around during this particular scene, what would have been popular, and found the perfect song, the right tone, the right attitude, the right lyrics, and looked up copyright law. So the copyright law is traditionally 50 years, and then it becomes public domain. I did my research all on the day before we were going to go and shoot it. So I wrote Muse Legal. I said, can you please check to see if these rights still exist? What we're going to be charged for using them. I think it's public domain. I've read a bunch of public domain stuff. So I'm going to do this, and please get back to me. They didn't get back to me, so we did it on set, and we didn't own the rights.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
So we found that out later, and thankfully I was able to show them. I'm like, look, I emailed you guys.
Yeah.
I was concerned about this. Yes, I know it was last minute, but I made it clear in the email.
Right.
I needed to people needed to get a hold of me now about this, and really look it up. And it's probably a good thing that they didn't get a hold of us, because ultimately it worked really, really well for the scene, and the executive producer decided that we were going to pay for that song because it was too good to take out of the scene. Because at first we were thinking, well, we can take the moments where we see your mouth, and I can compose something and make it lip sync, and I'll just come up with something that sounds like a Tony song. I'm like, I'm a musician, I can do that. But eventually he made the decision, even though it was costly. He's like, no, it's just the perfect song for it, and people know it. People know the song. It's it's been around for a long time. So we decided to use that. But I guess because I felt bad, I'm like, I really cost the production something. I said, listen, in this same episode, there's a party, and you're paying for all these bands to have music in the background, so I'll just give you one, and that'll sort of make up for the money you spent on that song. So, and that was how it occurred to me to even ask me to Crash Tones in the show. Now I'm like, hey, by the way, there's an album of this stuff. You can use it.
Yeah.
So, and they may, in fact, use more. I don't really know what they're going to do with it going forward. But
I love your album personally. I think it's really... Yeah. I think it's very, and not that I know you, but I feel like it's very you in that it's very dramatic. And I feel like all albums aren't like, it's very, what is the word I want? Because you sing with different tones and different screams and different whatever, so I always thought it was really fun to listen to. It's almost like listening to a little play.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That's definitely how it's designed to be. It's supposed to be sort of if you listen to it from beginning to end, it's supposed to be sort of a little dramatic presentation with different characters and stuff like that. It's funny, there was this one time, I remember this guy, terrible cheater, this young kid who was just an asshole to the women that he dated. cheated on him all, stuff like that. And I remember he was talking to someone, reading, he had my CD, and he was reading from the lyrics, and he's like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, what kind of a person writes these things? And I'm just like, well, how about this? How about a person who's never cheated on anyone before? I actually don't do those things. These are stories, asshole. I don't do these things. I'm not the guy, look, I'm going to shock everyone, but I actually haven't gone and, gotten a BJ from a hooker on a street and then gotten angry when she went to service another gentleman and taken a baseball bat and beat him to death. I actually haven't done that. I just read songs about it. I guess that says something totally different about me. But the fact of the matter is there's stuff in there that's whacked out. There's stuff in there that's meant to make people uncomfortable. There's stuff, like Gentleman Caller, my whole take on that song is like the lead character of that song is a nearly sociopathic individual who none of you should date.
Right.
Look out for this guy. This is a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
This guy's bad news. Stay away from him. That's sort of the, but, I'm more interested in telling the story rather than, having some narrator who also goes, but that's not really how I feel. Don't take it too seriously. But no, you just tell the story.
Right.
Yeah.
I play a murderer, and being human, I play a murderer. Doesn't mean I've murdered anyone in real life.
Yeah.
But I play that. So the same thing with the songs. It's like I take on certain personas in each song, different characters, and therefore the voice has to change from song to song because they're different characters, And then of course there are some songs which I'm not even going to go into which ones because that'll spoil the fun. But there are some songs where it's like, no, that's me. That's from me. That's me talking. But I guess it's all me talking, but like in some cases it's like literally, now this is how I feel about this.